I love winter. I love the colours. I love that things are a little bit greener, especially in Australia, where usually it's like you're living on Mars with a few shrubs here and there. As far as I can see, men have two really big hurdles when it comes to their freedom and their search for meaning. The first one is that they're very thing-orientated. We love looking out at the world. We're interested in everything outside of us, which is great for society and women and children and everything, and ingenuity and civilization and going out into space, building a Hadron Collider and exploring the depths of the ocean. But the second hurdle, which is men's blind spot, is that when a man spends his whole life interested in anything and everything outside of himself, serving anything and everything, when those things leave, when you lose your job, when you lose your family, when you're immobilized, you have a disability, and you're just left with yourself, the thing that you've been ignoring your whole life, that's when a man realizes he's all alone. That's when it comes crashing down for the first time ever, because you never looked in the opposite direction. It was always outward, never inward. Everything outside of you was always more interesting. And when you're left with nothing, when the end finally comes, that's when it really hits you. This is the hard thing. When you finally realize that all the things you've always been interested in outside of you, women in the world, finally they will never be interested in you back. You feel more alone than ever. Women are different. They're very self-referential. They look at themselves all the time. Men don't. We're very different in that way when it comes to the differences between men and women. I think it might have been one reason why back in the day men created gods, something beyond themselves, because men's sense of feeling alone comes from the fact that there is nothing beyond us. Women can lean on us, but we don't really lean on anything else. And so I think that's why men created gods in the past, to have something beyond them to lean on, to look towards. You know, the buck doesn't just stop with us, there's something beyond us. And in midlife particularly, this is the good thing. When you finally realize that there's nothing beyond you, that you're all alone, then suddenly thinking becomes important. Men pay a lot of attention to intelligence because we have to. If we don't, we're homeless. The term be a man is akin to grow up. And that's why we notice women are never told to be a woman. They don't have to grow up. It's then that a man realizes that philosophy isn't just intellectual masturbation. It's essential to find meaning in your mind, in yourself. They're not fancy words anymore. When you know that you're all alone and there's nothing beyond you, you have to look inward. It's also then that the romantic lie of men's stoic selflessness in society becomes an apparent lie. Then comes the liberation, hopefully. When there's no one coming to save you, you have to save yourself. That's the liberation for me anyway. If I realize the nature of the world and women, and I know I can only count on myself, that to me is liberating. Essentially, you're not looking at the world to save you anymore. I know for me, it became more important to be psychologically more interested in myself and not foisted on others. If I wasn't interested in me, why should anyone else? And particularly as a man, I could no longer look to a pretty little dream killer to save me and, make my world better. I had to appeal to my own mind. The only women I really respect are the ones that have the same qualities as men I respect. That they can actually be engaged with a human being and see the other person for a human being. I know that's almost impossible to find, but that's not the point. I think it's a virtue we should all hold ourselves to in any relationship. If you don't see your needs, you're not interested enough in your own life to develop your own ethics and values and stand by them. And more importantly, start to be interested enough in speaking them, your own language, how you speak to yourself. Record yourself, not in video, you don't have to, but even in audio. How do you speak to yourself? What language do you use? Is reading literature and philosophy just some sort of theatrical pursuit? Or is it nutrition by which you can actually start speaking and thinking better? When you, the person thinking, finally cares enough to think about how they're speaking, cares enough about his boundaries and the quality of his words, and cares enough about the privilege of actually being alive, maybe then you'll start going your own way. I hope this was useful, and I'll talk to you later.